buckle up because the garage door is finally lifting on what went down behind the scenes of Taxi. While the legendary 1979 sitcom looked like a well-oiled comedy machine on screen, the real dynamics between the cast were fueled by bizarre, ego-driven antics that nobody saw coming. From backstage feuds to erratic behavior that nearly derailed the show, the off-camera drama was far stranger than fiction. So, what bizarre details did fans never know about the Taxi? Join us as we look under the hood of television's most eccentric garage and reveal the secrets they tried to keep parked. The unlikely casting of Tony Danza. The 1980s were packed with sitcoms preaching wholesome family values. Hits like The Jeffersons and Growing Pains dominated the airwaves, but a few brave series dared to shatter that perfect mold. Taxi was one of those trailblazers. Instead of serving up the typical white picket fence family, it took a darker, grittier turn by focusing on a ragtag group of workplace misfits just trying to survive. One of those lovable misfits was Tony Banta, played by Tony Danza. Interestingly, Danza didn't get the role through a traditional Hollywood audition. Producer Stuart Sheslow actually discovered him during an intense workout at the famous Gleason's boxing gym. Sheslow was scouting for a real fighter to bring authenticity to a new sitcom project, and Danza instantly caught his eye. After grabbing Danza's contact information, Sheslow convinced several network executives to attend one of his actual boxing matches. The suits loved his raw energy, but they initially had a very different vision for the character. The role was originally written as Phil Ryan, a cynical Irish boxer who struggled heavily with alcohol. Thankfully, the creators pivoted. They realized Danza's natural charm was too good to pass up, rewriting the character to match his real personality. Fans today can all agree that Danza was the perfect man for the job. He brilliantly transformed the role into the dim-witted but incredibly lovable character we know today, a struggling cabbie by night who never gave up on his dream of becoming a champion boxer by day. The audition that landed. Louis De Palma, throwing a script onto a table and screaming profanities usually gets you kicked out of an audition, not hired. But Danny DeVito is no ordinary actor. He was absolutely determined to land the role of the tyrannical dispatcher, Louis De Palma, and he was willing to risk everything to make an unforgettable impression. Interestingly, DeVito almost didn't show up to the audition at all. When casting director Joel Thurm first approached him about the series, Hollywood heavyweights Michael Douglas and Jack Nicholson explicitly warned him against doing television. They told him the grueling TV grind uses you up. Looking back years later in an interview for the Archive of American Television, DeVito joked that it was easy for them to say that since they were already rich, established movie stars. Bear with me for just a moment. This is genuinely worth 20 seconds of your time. Quick question. Can you still remember every word to a song from 1975, but you forgot what you had for breakfast this morning? Scientists found the exact reason for that pattern in 2013. It has nothing to do with aging. It's a specific system inside your brain, and researchers have found exactly how to restore it. Go to brainresearchreport.com, or if it's easier, it's linked in the description below. It's genuinely one of those things you'll wish you'd known sooner. Now, back to the video. DeVito, however, genuinely loved the Taxi pilot script and knew he had to go into full Louis mode to secure the part. He walked into a tense conference room where heavy-hitting producers, James L. Brooks, etc., Weinberger, Stan Daniels, and David Davis were waiting expectantly. Taking just one step inside, DeVito slammed the script onto the coffee table and bellowed, "One thing I want to know before we start. Who wrote this shit?" It was a staggering gamble that could have ended his career right then and there. Luckily, his outrageousness paid off beautifully. The producers didn't just laugh at his hostile opening gambit, they proceeded to guffaw at every single remark that followed. By completely blurring the line between himself and the character, DeVito proved he was the only man alive who could bring television's most lovable villain to life. The article that inspired Taxi. Taxi was no run-of-the-mill sitcom. It was a completely fresh concept packed with fresh Hollywood faces, which leaves many fans wondering, how did the creators actually come up with the idea to base a show around cab drivers? The spark for the series traced back to September 22, 1975, when New York Magazine published a fascinating article titled "Night Shifting for the Hip Fleet." The feature focused heavily on a unique group of night shift cabbies who all harbored big hopes and dreams. They were actors, artists, and musicians who used the garage as a temporary pit stop while pursuing their true passions during the day. Well, all of them except one. When this particular driver was asked about his long-term aspirations, he didn't mention a glamorous fallback career. He simply looked at the reporter and answered, "I'm a cab driver." That single, grounded response instantly inspired the central character of Alex Reiger, the only person in the garage who accepted his reality as a career cabbie. It just goes to show that true creative inspiration can hit you at any moment, turning a simple magazine profile into television gold. The method behind Reverend Jim's madness. Christopher Lloyd is truly his own brand of kooky talent. Not many people would dare to show up to an audition without shaving, skipping a hair wash, and sporting a dirty denim jacket they literally found tossed in some shrubs. But that chaotic energy worked perfectly for Lloyd, who was trying out for the dazed and confused Reverend Jim. He didn't just use that dingy style for the audition, he fully committed to it, wearing that same faded jean jacket on screen for 2 whole seasons. Along with the unkempt hair, Lloyd absolutely nailed the character's signature facial expression. He later revealed in a 2018 interview with The Hollywood Reporter that his inspiration for Reverend Jim's consistently zoned-out look came from a very personal source. It turned out he was channeling his own brother, perfectly capturing that blank, spaced-out stare to create one of the most iconic characters in television history. The unprecedented deal of Andy Kaufman. Imagine having a job where you only work 2 days a week, yet you still manage to become everyone's absolute favorite. That was the reality for Andy Kaufman, the eccentric genius behind the beloved foreign man character, Latka Gravas. Kaufman negotiated a uniquely sweet deal with the network that left the rest of the hard-working cast in total awe. While the rest of the Taxi crew slogged away on set 5 days a week, Kaufman only had to make an appearance twice a week. It is no secret that Kaufman was a fiercely quirky performer who could be incredibly difficult to work with, but no one could deny his raw comedic brilliance. The creators of Taxi were so utterly determined to cast him that they were willing to accommodate almost any demand. Kaufman was a notoriously hard catch because he genuinely wanted no part of a traditional network sitcom, fearing it would dilute his provocative style. To finally secure their man, the executives took a massive gamble and completely bent the rules of Hollywood. They formally agreed to a historic contract, allowing him to work just a couple of days a week and appear in only 14 episodes per season. This unprecedented flexibility allowed Kaufman to maintain his stand-up career and elaborate public pranks while still delivering television gold. The rest of the cast initially resented the special treatment, but they couldn't argue with the results. Every time Kaufman stepped onto the stage, he electrified the room, turning a secondary character into the undisputed breakout star of the entire series. The Emmy-winning legacy of the Sunshine Cab Company. No other sitcom has ever been able to truly duplicate the unique comedy style of Taxi, and it is safe to say that no one ever will. While the brilliant series only lasted for 5 seasons, it completely changed the course of television history by proving that network comedies could be gritty, deeply human, and fiercely avant-garde all at the same time. During its spectacular 5-year run, the show didn't just win over fans, it absolutely dominated the award circuit, earning not 1, not 2, but 3 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Comedy Series. Of course, those 3 prestigious trophies were not the show's only major achievements. The series consistently earned widespread critical acclaim and swept up several additional Emmys for its top-tier film editing, sharp directing, and groundbreaking writing. The production crew was continuously recognized for their relentless hard work and unmatched creative vision behind the scenes. Naturally, that same golden recognition extended directly to the legendary cast members who brought the Sunshine Cab Company to life. Danny DeVito, Christopher Lloyd, Carol Kane, and Judd Hirsch each earned an Emmy or 2 for their unforgettable performances, cementing their characters into pop culture. By the time the final meter ran out, the show had racked up a staggering total of 18 Emmy Awards out of 34 nominations. It remains a masterclass in ensemble acting and a shining example of what happens when network executives let creative geniuses run wild. Taxi proved that a sitcom about a group of down-on-their-luck misfits could achieve television immortality, leaving behind an untarnished, roaring legacy that still leaves modern comedies parked in the dust. The Chaos of Tony Clifton, a lesson in performance art. Enter Tony Clifton, another one of Andy Kaufman's bizarre character creations, designed specifically to be a sleazy, obnoxious Vegas lounge lizard. Kaufman was so deeply committed to the bit that he insisted Clifton be written into several Taxi episodes. Furthermore, he demanded the network treat Clifton as a completely separate entity, complete with his own unique contract, private dressing room, and reserved parking spot. To keep the illusion alive, Kaufman strictly required that all staff and actors address him only as Tony, never Andy. The master plan finally went into motion when Clifton was officially cast as Louie's brother in the classic episode A Full House for Christmas. Naturally, he didn't endear himself to the cast. He arrived incredibly late to the set, then immediately retreated to his dressing room for over an hour to engage in incredibly loud antics with 2 sex workers he had brought along for the ride. When rehearsals finally got underway, the situation dissolved into absolute chaos. Tony kept changing the dialogue on a whim and suddenly announced that he had written parts for his new companions as well. The cast quickly hit their breaking point. Jeff Conaway stormed off the set in a rage, while Judd Hirsch got into a screaming match with Tony that quickly escalated into actual punches being thrown. With the production completely derailed, executive producer Ed Weinberger finally summoned security guards to forcibly escort Tony Clifton off the Paramount lot. While the cast was genuinely shaken by the explosive drama, Kaufman later gleefully confessed that getting fired by security had been his entire purpose behind the elaborate bit of theater. It remains one of the most legendary, ego-driven pranks in Hollywood history. The casting gamble that created Elaine Nardo. Elaine Nardo, brilliantly played by Marilu Henner, was the undisputed sweetheart of the entire garage. She possessed that rare, magnetic ability to effortlessly hang out with the boys, shoot the breeze, and match their gritty energy. Yet she always remained the nurturing friend they could safely turn to for dating advice or emotional support. With her vibrant, fiery red hair and genuinely compassionate nature, she instantly won over the hearts of millions of fans worldwide. However, television history almost looked entirely different, as Elaine could have been a completely contrasting character. Originally, the show's creators had a very specific vision in mind for the role. They actively wanted the character to be a mid-30s Italian New Yorker who was raising a teenage daughter. Enter Joel Thurm, the legendary casting director for Taxi, who decided to throw the traditional breakdown out the window. Thanks to his sharp eye for raw talent, Henner was brought in to audition, even though she absolutely did not fit the original description. She was Polish-Greek, hailed from Chicago, and looked nothing like the world-weary New Yorker they had envisioned. Despite not being what the executives originally wanted on paper, Henner walked into the room and completely blew everyone away with her undeniable charm and sharp comedic timing. She effortlessly proved to the entire creative team that she was exactly what the show needed to balance out the chaotic garage. The writers quickly pivoted, rewriting the character to fit her unique background, and the rest is television history. Fans can agree that Thurm's casting gamble paid off beautifully, giving us one of the most iconic, grounded, and beloved leading ladies of the 1980s sitcom era. The high-stakes gamble behind casting Alex Riger. There would absolutely be no Taxi without the steady voice of reason, Alex Riger. And conversely, there would be no Alex Riger without the brilliant Judd Hirsch. Yet in a twist that would have completely altered television history, there was almost no Judd Hirsch on the show at all. At the time, Hirsch was a highly successful, deeply respected stage actor who had already started making waves in film. He simply wasn't interested in becoming a mainstream sitcom star, largely due to the grueling time commitment required by network television. His hesitation only solidified after a 1977 guest-starring stint on 2 episodes of the Mary Tyler Moore Show spin-off, Rhoda, an experience that left him entirely convinced that working in television just wasn't for him. However, Hollywood had other plans. Shortly after that appearance, his agent contacted him with big news. The producers of a brand new show called Taxi were utterly desperate to lock him in for their lead role. Hirsch agreed to read the pilot script, and his veteran instincts immediately kicked in. He knew instantly that the writing was a masterpiece and calculated that the series would easily run for at least 3 seasons. For Hirsch, that was actually bad news. He desperately wanted to keep his schedule wide open for Broadway plays and feature films. and the thought of being legally tied down to a single television studio for years felt suffocating. Desperate to get out of the situation gracefully, Hirsch instructed his manager to fire back with an absolutely outlandish financial demand, a deal so ridiculously inflated that he was certain the network executives would laugh and walk away. But the creators of Taxi refused to take no for an answer. Recognizing that Hirsch was the indispensable anchor their ensemble cast needed, the producers shocked everyone by calling his bluff and accepting the extravagant offer. While Hirsch was still agonizing over the decision, the producers had actually started looking at backup options. Chief among them was fellow Broadway and film star Mandy Patinkin. In fact, when Tony Danza famously came in for his audition, he didn't read his lines with Hirsch. He read them opposite Patinkin. While Hirsch ultimately accepted the job and made the character iconic, the producers never forgot Patinkin's incredible talent. They later brought him into the fold for a deeply memorable, classic guest spot in the two-part episode, Memories of Cab 804, beautifully closing the loop on what could have been. The battle for Bobby Wheeler, how Jeff Conaway claimed the role. The character of aspiring actor Bobby Wheeler was originally envisioned in a completely different light, as the writers initially wrote the part with a black actor in mind. Blazing Saddles star Cleavon Little was in serious contention for the role, and the high-stakes casting battle eventually came down to a fierce choice between him and Jeff Conaway. Conaway already had a crucial foot in the door with the show's powerhouse production team. He had recently made a memorable guest appearance on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, which put him squarely on the creator's radar. Additionally, he had just finished co-starring as Kenickie in the movie adaptation of Grease, though the film had not yet been released in theaters to make him a household name. Interestingly, the series creators didn't originally see Conaway as the slick, aspiring actor. Instead, they had him earmarked for the role of John Burns, the naive, sweet-natured young cabbie. Conaway, however, read the script and disagreed completely. He firmly believed his natural charm and Hollywood energy made him far better suited for the ambitious Bobby Wheeler, and he actively campaigned to the producers for a chance at the part. To settle the matter, executives set up a crucial chemistry reading between Conaway and the show's anchor, Judd Hirsch. The sparks between the two actors were undeniable. Conaway's confident performance during the reading completely won over the room, proving he had the exact charisma needed to play the struggling actor. The creators officially handed him the role, shifting the entire dynamic of the Sunshine Cab Company and cementing another piece of television history. The casting pivot, how Reverend Jim replaced John Burns. The evolution of the Taxi characters got a little messy behind the scenes, creating a casting puzzle that the producers had to scramble to solve. In the early stages of development, the character of Phil Ryan, the boxer, was written to be somewhat punch-drunk and dim-witted. However, once Tony Danza was officially hired, the creative team quickly realized his natural charm was a goldmine. They pivoted, deciding he was far more convincing playing a young, sweet, and naive optimist rather than a confused, bruising bumbler. This change created a massive structural problem for the show. Actor Randall Carver had already been cast as John Burns, a wide-eyed, innocent country bumpkin who was completely new to the gritty streets of New York City. As season 1 progressed, the producers noticed a glaring issue during table reads. The two characters were simply too similar. Because both Tony and John filled the exact same naive newcomer archetype, their jokes and lines became almost entirely interchangeable, dulling the sharp comedic edge of the ensemble. Recognizing that the garage wasn't big enough for two wide-eyed innocents, the creators made a tough executive decision. John Burns was quietly written out of the script after the first season wrapped. To fill the comedic void and inject some fresh energy into the garage, they officially promoted Christopher Lloyd to the main cast. Lloyd played Reverend Jim Ignatowski, a dazed and confused 1960s drug casualty. By bringing in Reverend Jim, the producers finally captured that perfect, eccentric goofiness they had originally intended for the boxer, solidifying the legendary dynamic that pushed Taxi into sitcom immortality. Friday Night Ragers and the melancholy sound of Taxi. If there is one thing these cabbies loved to do, more than play cards in the garage and eat at Mario's, it was throwing an absolute rager. The cast and crew of Taxi certainly knew how to party, and they proudly showed off this skill set every single Friday night, immediately after filming wrapped. Everyone on set would happily pitch in cash to fund these weekly bashes, which quickly became the hottest ticket in Hollywood. In fact, the parties grew so legendary that they regularly attracted stars from other massive Paramount sitcoms, with members from the casts of Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and Laverne and Shirley regularly dropping by to join the fun. The beautiful thing about these gatherings was that they weren't thrown for networking or publicity. The cast simply threw them because they genuinely wanted to spend more time together. Everyone involved in the show thoroughly enjoyed each other's company and hated saying goodbye, even if it was just for a short weekend break. They might not have been real-life cab drivers, but they built a bond that made them real-life friends. Behind the scenes, the show's iconic sound also took an unexpected detour. The original choice for the series' theme song was actually an upbeat track called Touchdown by jazz musician Bob James. However, a completely different, deeply moving James composition changed everything. The tune was initially used for a specific sequence in the series' third episode, Blind Date, played while a hesitant Alex walks up to an apartment door for a dubious second date with the acidic Angela Matusa. The producers realized this beautifully melancholy, drifting song perfectly captured the bittersweet, soulful essence of the struggling night shift cabbies, and it rightfully became the legendary theme song fans know and love today. The Bitter Truth, Jeff Conaway's exit from Taxi. In 2008, Jeff Conaway bitterly told the Calgary Herald that he quit the show in 1981 because the producers had completely disrespected him and broken their original deal. Conaway confidently claimed that he never needed to do a television series in the first place, boasting that his movie career was already thriving. He went so far as to assert that if he had skipped Taxi altogether, he would have been a $20 million movie star, sharply adding that he was better than most of the jerks working in Hollywood. To cap off his grievance, he insisted that after he walked away from the garage, the show immediately plummeted 20 rating points and faced cancellation. However, industry insiders knew a completely different story, and Conaway's explosive declaration was heavily colored by a shocking radio broadcast from 2 months earlier. Taxi writer and producer Sam Simon had called into Howard Stern's radio program and candidly exposed the real reason behind the actor's departure. Simon described a tragic backstage incident where crew members found Conaway, who fought a notorious lifelong battle with severe substance abuse, passed out on his dressing room floor, completely too high to report for filming. Faced with a live studio audience and a ticking clock, the writers had to think fast. They immediately divvied up Conaway's entire script of lines between Danny DeVito and Christopher Lloyd. When the scenes played out, the producers noticed there was absolutely no reduction in the amount of audience laughter. It was a brutal wake-up call for the production team, who realized at that exact moment that the character of Bobby Wheeler was entirely expendable. Sadly, Conaway was never able to reclaim his Hollywood footing, and he passed away in 2011 at the age of 60, leaving behind a tragic cautionary tale of fame and addiction. The Bridge to Syndication, Taxi's near-miss cancellation. The unforgettable opening credits of Taxi feature a lone checker cab slowly piloting its way across New York's massive Queensboro Bridge. In a brilliant bit of editing, that specific driving segment loops several times while the names appear on screen. This artistic choice creates the haunting illusion of a taxi traveling on an absolutely endless bridge, constantly moving but ultimately getting nowhere. It was a perfect, deeply poetic visual metaphor for the characters themselves, who were all trapped in a repetitive cycle of driving cabs while their true dreams remained perpetually out of reach. Despite its critical acclaim and haul of trophies, the show's journey behind the scenes was just as bumpy as a New York pothole. ABC, which had been Taxi's broadcasting home for 4 highly successful seasons, abruptly canceled the series in 1982 due to dipping ratings. The heartbroken cast and crew gathered on set to bid their emotional farewells, believing the meter had finally run out on the Sunshine Cab Company. However, Hollywood wasn't quite ready to let them park for good. In a dramatic turn of events, the cast received shocking news just days later. Both NBC and HBO were locked in a fierce bidding war to rescue the show from cancellation. NBC ultimately won the intense corporate tug-of-war, picking up the series and running it for one final triumphant season. This crucial rescue package was a massive victory for the creators as it pushed the show's lifetime total to 112 episodes, just over the golden 100-episode milestone necessary to secure a highly lucrative syndication package. Thanks to that network lifeline, the Misfits of the Garage were able to live on in reruns for decades, cementing their place in television history. The end of the line. Why the taxi finally parked. The real reason Taxi ended comes down to a simple change in what TV viewers wanted to watch in the 1980s. The show was very smart, mature, and realistic, but as the decade moved on, audiences wanted lighter, simpler entertainment. Family-friendly comedies like Silver Spoons and Different Strokes were becoming the biggest hits on television. Compared to those easygoing shows, Taxi felt too adult because it focused on the gritty, everyday struggles of working-class people. Ratings also played a massive role in the cancellation. During its first 2 seasons in 1978 and 1979, the show was a huge success. However, a lot of that success was due to its perfect time slot. It aired right after Three's Company, which was a massive mega hit that automatically passed millions of viewers over to Taxi. Everything changed in the 3rd season when the ABC network retoggled its weekly schedule. They moved Taxi to a new night, stripping it of that powerful let-in. Without the help of Three's Company, the ratings began to decline rapidly. ABC made the hard corporate call to end the show after season 4, though NBC later rescued it for one final run. That final year came to an abrupt close on June 15, 1983, with an episode titled Simca's Monthlies. The writers did not plan this episode as a grand series send-off. Instead, it was just another regular workday at the garage, featuring the show's signature blend of absurd comedy and relatable human problems. The plot centers on Latka's eccentric wife, Simca, played by Carol Kane. She is dealing with extreme mood swings and wild food cravings brought on by her monthly Kremke-push cycle. To make matters worse, she faces an immediate immigration review that could end with her deportation. True to form, the Sunshine Cab crew bands together to help her stay calm and keep things together so she can pass the review and stay in the country. In the end, life in the garage simply goes on, even as the television show stops for good. For a series about ordinary cab drivers waiting for a better life, this simple, open-ended slice of life was the perfect way to say goodbye. What character in Taxi is your favorite to this very day? Share why you are thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.